This isn't just another campfire ghost story or urban legend. It's a tale so harrowing that it inspired the hit horror movie, The Conjuring. But as you'll soon discover, the truth behind this haunting is far more disturbing than any Hollywood script could capture. Hello, and welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today, we're delving deep into one of the most bone-chilling haunted house cases in American history, the terrifying experiences of the Perron family. But before we dive in, some of the details in this story are disturbing and may not be suitable for all audiences, so viewer discretion is strongly advised. As always, remember to hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications to stay up to date with our uploads. Alright, prepare yourself for a journey into the heart of a real-life haunting that will make you question everything you thought you knew about the supernatural. Our story begins in the crisp winter of 1971. Meet the Perrons, Roger and Carolyn, a hard-working couple with 5 young daughters, Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April. They were the very picture of an all-American family, full of hope and dreams for the future. Roger was a hard-working man, often away from home due to his job as a long-haul trucker. Carolyn was a devoted mother, always putting her children first. The girls ranged in age from around 5 to 16, each with unique personalities and aspirations. Like many families in the early 70s, the Perrons were looking for a fresh start away from the bustle of city life. They dreamed of wide-open spaces, fresh country air, and a quiet, idyllic existence where they could focus on what truly mattered: each other. Little did they know that their pursuit of the American dream would lead them into an American nightmare. Nestled in the picturesque countryside of Harrisville, Rhode Island, stood a house that seemed to embody everything the Perrons sought. The old Arnold estate was a charming 18th-century farmhouse, its weathered clapboards and quaint shutters painting a picture of rustic New England charm. The property sprawled across 200 acres of land, offering plenty of room for 5 energetic girls to run and play. An old barn stood nearby, perfect for exploration and adventure. To the Perrons, it seemed like a slice of paradise. But beneath its quaint exterior, the old Arnold estate harbored a history as dark and twisted as the gnarled branches of the ancient trees that surrounded it. The house had been in the Arnold family for 8 generations, spanning over 2 centuries. During that time, the property had borne witness to a staggering amount of tragedy and death. The land seemed almost cursed, with tales of suicide, murder, and freak accidents peppered throughout its history. Some even whispered about rape, incest, and the drowning of a child. One of the most notorious former residents was a woman named Bathsheba Sherman, who lived in the house during the mid-19th century. Local legend painted her as a servant of darkness, a practicing Satanist who had sacrificed her infant child to the devil. According to the whispered tales passed down through generations, Bathsheba had been caught sacrificing the baby to Satan, driving a needle into the base of the child's skull. Though she was acquitted of the crime due to lack of evidence, the suspicion never left her. Bathsheba lived out the rest of her days as a pariah, feared and hated by her neighbors. She died in 1885, her body reportedly turned to stone, a bizarre detail that only added fuel to the rumors of her alleged dealings with the dark forces. While these claims were never proven, Bathsheba's reputation cast a long, dark shadow over the property. Some said her spirit never left the house, that her malevolent presence lingered, waiting for new victims to torment. But the Perrons knew none of this when they first laid eyes on their dream home. To them, it was a place of new beginnings, of hope, of family. They were about to learn, in the most terrifying way possible, that sometimes the past refuses to stay buried. It was a crisp January day in 1971 when the Perron family pulled up to their new home. The winter sun casted long shadows across the snow-covered fields as they unloaded their belongings, their breath visible in the cold New England air. The girls were excited, running from room to room, claiming bedrooms and exploring every nook and cranny of their new domain. Carolyn busied herself with unpacking, her mind filled with plans for renovations and decorations. Roger, when not at work, threw himself into repairs and improvements around the property. For the first few weeks, everything seemed perfect. The house creaked and settled in the way old houses do, but it felt cozy and full of character. The family reveled in the peace of country living, a far cry from their previous life in the city. But as January gave way to February, and winter's grip began to loosen, strange occurrences began to plague the family. At first, it was easy to dismiss, items going missing or turning up in unexpected places. The girls would argue over who had moved whose toys or clothes. Then came the sounds. Footsteps when no one was there, doors opening and closing on their own, whispers in empty rooms. The family tried to rationalize these events. It's an old house, they told themselves. The wind, the settling of ancient timbers, their imaginations playing tricks on them in unfamiliar surroundings. But as the days grew longer and spring began to bloom, the incidents became harder to explain away. The Perrons were about to discover that they were not alone in their new home. As winter melted into spring, the paranormal activity in the house intensified at an alarming rate. The family found themselves besieged by phenomena that defied rational explanation. It began with apparitions, spirits that would appear and vanish in the blink of an eye. Some were fleeting glimpses caught out of the corner of one's eye. Others were full-bodied apparitions that stood and stared before fading away. The children, particularly susceptible to the supernatural, bore the brunt of these visitations. They would often wake up paralyzed, a heavy, oppressive presence weighing down on their chests. Sometimes they'd see spirits hovering over their beds, watching them with hollow, hungry eyes. Andrea, the eldest daughter, recounted a chilling experience where she was lifted off her bed by an unseen force, floating helplessly before being unceremoniously dropped back onto the mattress. Unfortunately, the activity wasn't limited to nighttime. During the day, objects would move on their own, sometimes violently thrown across rooms. Doors would slam shut, trapping family members in rooms. Windows would fly open on calm days, curtains billowing as if they were in a strong wind. One particularly terrifying incident occurred when Carolyn was doing laundry in the basement. As she worked, she felt a presence behind her. Turning, she saw nothing, but when she went back to her task, she felt hands on her back, shoving her forcefully toward the ground. She scrambled away, heart pounding, only to see no one there. The family dog wasn't spared either. They would often find him growling at empty corners or barking furiously at things they couldn't see. Sometimes he would whimper and hide, refusing to enter certain rooms of the house. But perhaps most disturbing were the smells. Putrid odors would waft through the house, and the stench of rotting flesh that would appear and disappear without warning or an apparent source. Other times, it was the sickly sweet scent of flowers, specifically lilacs, a smell the family would later learn was associated with Bathsheba Sherman. As the paranormal activity escalated, the Perrons found themselves trapped in a waking nightmare. Their dream home had become a prison of fear, and escape seemed impossible. As the Perrons learned to navigate their haunted existence, they began to distinguish between different entities that seemed to inhabit their home. Not all the spirits were malevolent. Some seemed almost benign, even friendly. One of the more harmless spirits was a young boy who seemed to have a particular fondness for April, the youngest Perron daughter. April would often wake to find her toys had been moved or arranged in new configurations. Sometimes, she said, the boy would play with her, though no one else could see him. Another spirit the family dubbed Mrs. John seemed to be a holdover from the house's earlier days. The ghost of an older woman would be seen sweeping the kitchen floor at night, seemingly unaware of the living inhabitants of the house. But not all the spirits were so innocuous. The house seemed to be a beacon for darker entities, spirits filled with anger, pain, and malevolence. One particularly troubling spirit was that of a man who seemed to have an unhealthy interest in Carolyn. She would often feel his presence, a cold, oppressive force that would follow her through the house. Sometimes, she said, she could feel him climb into bed with her, an unseen weight pressing down on the mattress. But the most terrifying and violent presence was believed to be the spirit of Bathsheba Sherman. This entity was described as having a misshapen gray face, often appearing wearing a gray dress that seemed to belong to the 19th century. The family believed Bathsheba was responsible for the most frightening and violent occurrences in the house. She seemed to harbor a particular hatred for Carolyn, perhaps seeing her as a rival for dominion over the house and family. Carolyn would often wake up with bruises and scratches, with no memory of how she got them. On multiple occasions, she reported being attacked by an unseen entity, feeling as if she was being stabbed with a sharp object. One night, Roger awoke to find Carolyn levitating above their bed, her body contorted in an unnatural position. Before he could react, she slammed back down onto the mattress with incredible force. The entities in the house seemed to feed off the family's fear, growing stronger and more bold as time went on. The Perrons found themselves in a constant state of terror, never knowing when or where the next attack would come from. Living under such horrifying conditions took a severe toll on the Perron family. The constant fear and stress affected their physical and mental health in profound ways. Roger, who was often away for work, struggled to believe the extent of what his family was experiencing. This created tension in the family, adding to their already considerable stress. When he was home, he would often hear and see things he couldn't explain, but the bulk of the activity seemed to occur in his absence. Carolyn bore the brunt of the haunting. Once a vibrant, energetic woman, she became a shell of her former self. Constantly exhausted from sleepless nights and the stress of protecting her children, her health began to deteriorate rapidly. She lost weight, developed anxiety and depression, and lived in a constant state of fear. The children's education suffered as they struggled to sleep at night and concentrate during the day. Their grades began to slip, and they became withdrawn at school, unable to relate to their peers who lived in normal, non-haunted houses. The family's social life disintegrated. They stopped inviting friends over, afraid of what might happen. When they did have visitors, strange occurrences would often drive them away, leaving the Perrons increasingly isolated. Financial strain added to their stress. The house required constant repairs, often due to the violent paranormal activity. Windows would shatter, doors would splinter, and appliances would break down with alarming frequency. Despite the hardships, the family couldn't afford to move. They had invested everything they had into this property and were financially tied to it. They had no choice but to endure the haunting, hoping against hope that things would eventually improve. The Perrons found themselves caught in a nightmare they couldn't wake up from. Their American dream twisted into a horrifying parody of itself. In 1973, 2 years into their ordeal, the Perrons' plight caught the attention of Ed and Lorraine Warren, famous paranormal investigators known for their work on high-profile cases, such as the Amityville haunting. The Warrens arrived at the old Arnold estate with their team of investigators and equipment in tow. From the moment they stepped onto the property, they knew they were dealing with something extraordinary. Ed Warren, a self-proclaimed demonologist, and Lorraine, a self-described clairvoyant, quickly declared the Perron case one of the most significant hauntings they had ever encountered. During their investigation, the Warrens claimed to have witnessed a plethora of paranormal phenomena. Objects moved on their own, sometimes violently. They heard disembodied voices and captured EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, on their recording equipment. Lorraine, with her purported psychic abilities, said she sensed multiple spirits in the house. She described layers of energy, like sediment built up over centuries of tragedy and pain, but overshadowing it all was the malevolent presence she identified as Bathsheba. According to Lorraine, Bathsheba's spirit was not just haunting the house, she was laying claim to it and everyone in it. The Warrens believed that Bathsheba saw Carolyn as an intruder, a rival maternal figure to be eliminated. The Warrens attempted to help the family, conducting research into the property's history and performing cleansing rituals. They brought in a priest to perform a blessing on the house, but this seemed to only aggravate the paranormal activity. Things came to a head during what the family would later describe as a seance gone wrong. The exact details of what happened that night vary depending on who you ask, but all agree it was terrifying. Some family members describe objects flying around the room. Others talk about a presence so evil it felt like the air itself had become malevolent. In the aftermath of this event, with the paranormal activity more violent than ever, the Perron family asked the Warrens to leave. Whether this was out of fear that the Warrens' efforts were making things worse, or simply a desperate attempt to return to some semblance of normality is unclear. The Warrens' involvement brought national attention to the Perron family's plight. While this led to some support and sympathy, it also brought skeptics and thrill-seekers, further disrupting the family's already chaotic life. The Perron family continued to live in the house for about a decade after the Warrens' involvement. Unable to leave due to financial constraints, they learned to cope with their supernatural cohabitants as best as they could. They developed routines and rituals to minimize conflict with the spirits. Certain rooms were avoided at certain times. They learned which entities were relatively harmless and which needed to be feared. In a twisted way, the paranormal became their new normal. Finally, in 1980, the Perrons managed to sell the house and move away, leaving behind a decade of terror but taking with them memories that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The experiences of the Perron family have become legendary in paranormal circles. Their story gained widespread attention when it became the basis for the 2013 horror film, The Conjuring. While the movie took some liberties with the story, the Perron family maintains that the core of their experience was accurately portrayed. Andrea Perron, the eldest daughter, has written a trilogy of books about her family's experiences titled House of Darkness, House of Light. In these books, she provides a detailed account of their decade in the haunted house, offering insights and details that go beyond what was portrayed in the movie. Today, the old Arnold estate still stands. It has changed hands several times since the Perrons left, with subsequent owners reporting varying degrees of paranormal activity. Some claim the house is now peaceful, while others insist that it remains haunted. The house has become something of a dark tourism destination, with fans of the paranormal and thrill seekers often driving by or attempting to visit. The current owners, however, value their privacy and do not allow tours or investigations. The Perron family's experience has had a lasting impact on the field of paranormal research. It has been studied, debated, and analyzed by countless experts and enthusiasts. Some see it as compelling evidence of life after death and the existence of malevolent spirits. Others view it as a case study of the power of suggestion and the effects of stress and fear on the human mind. The haunting of the Perron family remains one of the most well-documented and chilling paranormal cases in American history. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the impact this experience had on one ordinary family is undeniable. Their story serves as a reminder that sometimes truth can be stranger and more terrifying than fiction. It challenges our understanding of reality and forces us to consider the possibility that there might be more to our world than what meets the eye. For the Perrons, the old Arnold estate was supposed to be a new beginning, a piece of the American dream. Instead, it became a nightmare that would define their lives for decades to come. Their experience raises profound questions about the nature of home, family, and the unseen forces that might be at work in the world around us. As we close this chapter of our exploration into the unknown, we're left with more questions than answers. What happened in that old farmhouse in Harrisville? Were the Perrons the victims of a genuine haunting, or were other forces at work? And perhaps most chillingly, could it happen again? These are questions that continue to haunt us, much like the spirits of the old Arnold estate. They remind us that for all our scientific advancements and rational explanations, there are still corners of our world shrouded in mystery. So the next time you hear an unexplained noise in your home, or feel a chill run down your spine for no apparent reason, remember the story of the Perron family, and perhaps, just perhaps, think twice before dismissing it as just your imagination. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the unknown. If you have made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, then check out these videos on the screen now. If you have a topic suggestion, please send it to the email in the description. And as always, remember to like, comment, share the video, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time, sleep tight, and maybe check under your bed before you turn out the lights.